lines. It's a painstaking process, but it pays off. They find puncture holes in the pressure lines of the plane's other 2 hydraulic systems, and the holes in both sets of pressure lines are near the failed engine.
We determined that all the 3 hydraulic systems had been breached, and that's why the hydraulic fluid was lost, and they lost the ability to really control the airplane.
It's incredible, but true. Something did put all 3 hydraulic systems out of action at exactly the same moment. But the team still has to prove that the number 2 engine caused the damage. They inspect the puncture holes with a scanning electron microscope and find minute traces of titanium. Titanium is used for critical airplane parts because it's tough, yet very light. On the DC-10, the only titanium anywhere near the tail section is inside the number 2 engine. And when NTSB engineers reconstruct the DC-10's number 2 engine, a new clue confirms the team's theory.
We learned that a major portion of the number 2 engine in the tail of the airplane had come apart and was missing.
The missing part is the fan disc, the massive central hub of the engine's fan assembly. It's made of titanium. Investigators are starting to get a picture of what caused the bizarre loss of controls aboard flight UA-232. 44 minutes from disaster. The loud bang that crew and passengers hear is the 170-kilogram fan disc fracturing. The broken fan disc bursts through the engine housing. The blast fractures a section of the number 2 hydraulic system. But in a piece of catastrophic bad luck, fragments also puncture lines in both remaining systems.
Quantity 0 on all 3. I'm sure gauges say 0. All hydraulic quantity down.
42 minutes to go. The plane loses all its flight controls. The tail section is so badly damaged that the plane can only make right-hand turns. And without elevators, the pilots cannot keep the plane on a level flight path through the sky. But the NTSB investigators still don't know what caused the fan disc to fracture. Until they find out, more than 200 other DC-10s could be flying around with engines that have a similar hidden fault. They must locate and examine the missing pieces of fan disc. Investigators calculate the likely trajectory of the fan disc debris to find out where it might have landed. They narrow it down to a tract of Iowa corn belt 36 square kilometers in size.
I would consider the search for that fan disc certainly a needle in a haystack type of effort.
Investigators pull out all the stops to find the missing fan disc. They scour the area with 4 helicopters, but find that the 3-meter-high corn stalks conceal everything on the ground. They even deploy infrared cameras to try to locate the pieces. But after weeks of searching, they draw a blank. General Electric, the engine manufacturer, offers members of the public a large reward for the missing fan disc. But there's still no sign of it. 2 months go by, and harvest time comes around. Janice and Dale Sorensen have a 180-hectare farm right in the middle of the search area. Tuesday, October 10th, 1989, and Janice Sorensen is out bringing in the corn.
As I was combining, I felt a little resistance on the front of the combine, and I backed it up and then put it in neutral and got out and looked, and I knew immediately that this was the piece they were looking for.
It's a massive chunk of debris, half buried in the earth. Teams from General Electric and the NTSB race to the Sorensen farm. Dale and Janice help investigators dig out the piece of wreckage. This is the Sorensens' own video footage of their find.
I had a little shovel long, and I went and got the tractor with a loader and put a chain around it, hoisted it up, and then we took it down to the turkey shed, which was not very far away, and we had hot water there, so we washed it off, so it was spick and span.
Investigators quickly confirm that the debris is a major chunk of the missing fan disc from flight UA-232. Then they find another piece nearby. Together, the two parts complete the entire missing fan disc. Janice Sorensen learns that her find could hold the key to the disaster.
I was very emotional about it. I had some tears. It was a combination of the excitement of finding the piece and of the tears for those who'd lost their lives.
One more.
Janice and her husband Dale collect General Electric's $120,000 reward. They give over half the money to charity. The NTSB can now begin the next phase of their investigation. They fly the fractured fan disc to the labs of the engine manufacturer General Electric to find out what could break apart such a robust metal component. Jim Wildy, a metallurgist by training, examines the fan disc, starting with the main fracture line where it broke apart. He spots something branching off it, a fatigue crack 13 millimeters long. It's rare to find metal fatigue in a fan disc. These components are specifically designed to withstand the enormous rotational forces within the engine. Then, at the base of the fatigue crack, Wildy sees a tiny cavity.
The size of it was, maximum in any one direction was about 50 thousandths of an inch.
As he scans the cavity more closely, he sees that the metal around it looks discolored. He takes a sample from this suspect area for testing. What he discovers will shock the investigation team and rock the aviation industry to its core. Investigator Jim Wildy examines a tiny cavity in the fractured fan disc from flight UA-232. What he finds stuns him. Around the cavity, there is an impurity in the titanium alloy. It's called a hard alpha inclusion, a brittle defect smaller than a fingernail. Analysis reveals that it was caused by excess nitrogen during the forging of the metal ingot. The fan disc in the DC-10 was made from titanium that harbored a fatal hidden defect. It's the final piece of the puzzle. The NTSB team can now put together the chain of events that left the passengers and crew of flight UA-232 seconds from disaster. As the DC-10's fan disc rotates at 3,800 RPM, the huge stresses initiate a minute crack in the defect. With every flight, it grows fractionally bigger. July 19th, 1989, 44 minutes from disaster. The fan disc has been in service for 15,503 flights over 17 years. The crack reaches 13 millimeters in length. The faulty fan disc can no longer cope with the stresses imposed by its rotation. It shears in two. The damage it causes makes the DC-10 virtually unflyable. For the next 40 minutes, the pilots struggled to control the plane.